The question came to Jesus 2,000 years ago, what is the most important commandment? Now, this question was designed to trip him up, but it just further revealed his next level genius. And so Jesus responds in Matthew 22 to this question, and he summarizes the Bible, he summarizes Christianity in 4 words. Love God, love others. Love God, love others. And let's read here, Matthew 22, verses 37 to 40. And so Jesus answers the question. Jesus replied, love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, and with all your mind. This is the first and greatest commandment. But he doesn't stop there. He bolts these two together. He says, and the second is like it. Love your neighbor as yourself. All the law and the prophets hang on these two commandments. Love God, love others. Love God, love others. This is a Jesus at the center life. If you think of our purpose circles, right in the center, loving God and loving others is central to what it is to be a follower of Christ. Jesus here is calling out the core of Christianity. So then it's important to ask, okay, how do I love God and how do I love others? I remember grappling with this when I really dove in at 19 years of age to, what is it to be a Christian? And I remember this passage here in Matthew 22 came alive for me. And I'm like, okay, God, how do I love you? What is this? Look, because I can't act on something that's intangible. I need to have some concrete next steps to actually take it from the ethereal and now live it, outwork it. How do I love you? How do I love others? And so these are important questions for us. Now, I want to take a sideways step just for a minute here and ask you, are you a parent with school-age kids? And then if you say yes, second question, follow-up question, have you got it all figured out? Have you got it all figured out? Well, to me, it's scary if you said yes, because I think we're all on a journey of that, right? None of us have got it all figured out, and we need each other, and we need each other's encouragement, advice, and insights. And our Parenting Grit podcast has so much of what I just described, has so much of this. It's facilitated by the brilliant Derek and Genevieve Hayes. And I want to just do a quick little shout out here. I've just finished a 4-part series called 10 Keys for Raising Under 10s. 10 Keys for Raising Under 10s. So if you have children in that bracket, or you're about to, then can I encourage you to jump on, and we have some overarching principles there, some areas of focus that are really helpful for us. And in here, I unpack in the first episode of these 4 that our overarching goal in parenting is to take a hold of Matthew 22. What Jesus is describing here, that our goal as parents is to provide a platform for our kids to grow into people who would love God and love others. And this provides a framework for us and for us to understand that in loving God, our kids will be connected with the God who is perfect love and who provides the ultimate foundation for their lives. They'll be in connection with the God who has the ultimate plan for their life, the blueprint for their life, and is committed to their flourishing. They'll be plugged into the wisdom and power of heaven as they steward their lives, and our kids will be with us in eternity. So our mission as parents is to help create a platform for kids to love God and then to love others, because in loving others, our kids will be in connection with the God who wants His perfect love alive in them and then flowing through them to the world around them. They'll be in connection with God who wants to continually untether them from the selfishness that was within. They'll be light shiners. They'll be more thoughtful and compassionate. They'll be lovers of unity and peace and dispensers of grace. And our kids will then be positioned for blessed and holy and fruitful relationships. So, can I encourage you, if you haven't yet, go across, build it into a part of your monthly rhythm, and check out our Parenting Grit podcast. And I guarantee you, this will help you have slightly better relationships with your kids. And it can even help you have slightly better relationship with sanity, as it can help you in that parenting space. It helps me, and it will help you. Jump in. Okay, sideways step complete. Here we go. Let's continue. So again, Jesus summarized Christianity in these 4 words: love God, love others. And so as we close out here for 2021, this Slightly Better Relationships series, the key question for us, as we're talking relationships, is how do we love others? What does it look like? How do we take this mandate from heaven, this divine responsibility, this call from God to love others? How do we do that? So, quick 2-part answer here. Firstly, a bit of a theological summary. And the Bible tells us in 1 John 3:16, that this is how we know what love is. Okay, so we want to know what love is. This is how we know what it is. Jesus Christ laid down his life for us, and we ought to lay down our lives for our brothers and sisters, for others. Okay, so this is the theological underpinnings of what it is to love others. And here we see in this verse and in the life and death of Jesus Christ, we see that love is tangible. It has an obvious substance. It's followed through with actions. That love is intentional and purposeful. That love is sacrificial. It costs us something. Love is more about the receiver's deepest needs than the giver's wants. Love is life-giving. And again, love was seen then in the life of Jesus Christ, and love is designed to be seen now, his love alive in us now, for the world to see that in us. And so now let's look at a very practical response, okay? A very practical response. Recently, I listened to an interview with Gordon MacDonald on the Kerry Newhoff Leadership podcast. And for those who don't know Gordon MacDonald, he's a pastor and leader with over 50 years experience in that space, the author of Ordering Your Private World and many other books. And so here he described in this, it was a long one, it was a couple hour podcast, took a few goes to get through this one. And so the title was The View from 80. Gordon MacDonald's in his 80s. So The View from 80, 15 life and leadership lessons after 8 decades on the planet. And so he outlines these 15 lessons for us. Excellent content. I'd encourage you to check it out. But Rule 12, I think, speaks into this space. It helps answer the question of what does love look like if we're to tangibly live in light of the love of God and empowered by the love of God to love others. So Rule 12, he says, be quick to say with sincerity, thank you, well done, I'm sorry, I forgive you, and how can I help? Thank you, well done, I'm sorry, I forgive you, how can I help? And Gordon goes on to say that these 5, they represent 5 inner core transactions that we can see in all relationships. And none of these 5 statements can be missing from a relationship that's going to have optimum health. So how do you love others? Well, it looks a lot like being quick to say with sincerity, thank you, well done, I'm sorry, I forgive you, how can I help? So I want you to think through your relationships. So have a think through your core relationships. It's your family and those friends who feel like family. So the inner core. And think through the next layer of relationships, the close relationships with other friends, and kind of the circle's getting a bit wider here, and friends at church, work, school, uni, etc. in our key social contexts that we find ourselves. And then zoom it out a little bit further and think about relationships just with the connections that we have, those looser connections and just general social interactions that we have. And so how do these 5 words, how do they feature in those relationships? So the call of God to love others looks a lot like thank you. Thank you. You remember a time where someone thanked you and it meant so much. And so what does it look like as we become slightly better in our relationships in the thank you space? Who can you go ahead and maybe even right now, if you're going to turn to someone or SMS someone or think about in the next few days, who needs or would love a thank you from you? Is it your spouse for something little or something big? Is it your boss or your employees? Is it your parents? Teenagers listening? It definitely is. Thank you. Thank you. Is it just the checkout person as you're at the supermarket and they were just efficient, or they had a smile and you just say, hey, thanks, you did really great. Could be the simplest little things. I've spent a bit of time in and out of hospitals in the last month with just some scenarios happening for some other people, and I've just been amazed at the nurses. And so a couple of times I've just intentionally stopped and said, hey, I just want to thank you. I could see them running around, and one time I was there, this patient was just going ballistic and swearing, and these 5 nurses were just trying to help this older gentleman, and security had to get called, and I could see these wonderful nurses who are there to help and care and have incredible hearts, and just some of the stuff that they have to go through. And so I just tried to take a moment and say, thank you. Loving others looks a lot like thank you. And then what was second? Well done. Well done. And again, it doesn't have to be those exact 2 words, but where that sentiment is expressed. Well done. Maybe it's an employee or group of employees. Hey, well done. Thank you. Well done. Maybe you see a person serving on a Sunday and they did something that you noticed and you just want to say, well done, build into them. Maybe it's into our children or other kids around us, and really being careful that there is encouragement and empowerment coming into that kid, not just relentless correction, because we know there's a lot to correct. And trying to hit that ratio of 5 points of particular encouragement, and not just blowing smoke, but finding specific things to build life and strength into them, as opposed to just the relentless correction that is so easy to fall into. Well done. Well done. And I mean, there's a leadership principle here for us too, that what we praise is what we want repeated. And so to be intentional about, hey, thank you, well done, I noticed that was incredible. And then because we want to pour fire onto that behavior, because we want to see more of it. Well done. What about I'm sorry? I'm sorry. And all of us at times need to say we're sorry. You know, this can often happen in our own home where we just let our emotions kind of get away with us and get the best of us. And let's be quick to come back, and where we need to look at your spouse, your kids, someone who was in your home, that situation at work maybe where you were just grumpy and just to go, hey, I let my emotions get the best of me, I'm sorry. I went too far, I shouldn't have said that. And to help our kids, I was helping one of our kids just the other day where she said, so she narrows it down to one of 2, and she said something jokingly to a friend who took offense at it, and we just talked about, hey, you got to take responsibility for your actions here and just apologize. You can see how from the other person's perspective that could be offensive, so own it. Apologize. Say you're sorry, and let's be these people who say we're sorry. And then the fourth here, I forgive you. I forgive you, and the power of those words that we first say internally when someone crosses us, when a relationship has a moment that's not good, when people step out of, and we first got to go, hey, Lord, I forgive them. I let go. I'm not going to hold bitterness because that's just going to poison me. I forgive them. And then when the opportunity is there potentially to say that to their face, hey, I forgive you. And fifth thought here is, how can I help? How can I help? Now, this is dangerous, right? This is dangerous. How can I help? And you may not be able to deliver on exactly what they want, but there's a heart. If your heart is pure in the sentiment that is expressed, then that's gonna make a connection. And if you can't, they say, hey, I need $1 million. You're like, I might struggle with that. Then you can be there to help make a plan for how else that could be delivered. And so you're expressing the sentiment, how can I help? Now, as we think about these 5, thank you. Well done. I'm sorry. I forgive you. How can I help? I want you to think, do you feel like you're nailing all of these? You feel like you're just smashing this. There's no room for improvement. There's no room for slightly better, because I am just thoroughly amazing. Well, if you're living in that deluded space, we're not. That all of us here are going to openly admit, man, there is room for more. And I want us to be a people who can say, man, I've got room for improvement here. And then we don't let that be negative or disempowering, but it's something that we bring to God and say, God, I need your help. I need your help in my relationships. I want you to help me be slightly better in my relationships. I want to look a little more like Jesus every day. I want to love you and love others a little more every single day, and to lean into that space. And that's a powerful space for us to be in. So let's not be down on ourselves. None of us are knocking 10 out of 10s across the board here. But each of us have the opportunity to come to God, to make decisions and to follow the prompts of the Spirit, and to say this week, maybe even right now in the next few minutes as you respond to this, I'm going to make room to be slightly better in this space. God, come and empower me, help me to love you and love others for your glory. In Jesus' mighty name, amen.